So, who might we be sitting with today? In the top left corner up there.
It's Murk, aka Miss P31.
Yes.
Hey.
Yes. Oh my goodness. So, really just honored to have you on Complicated Ish because I listened to your music. I don't even know how how did that happen? Did we talk briefly or something in the comments section or something like that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I know exactly what happened, which it was so dope. So I watched Discarded Things, your new movie on PureFlix, and it was so good. And I listened to you, both of you, years ago, and I just haven't kept up. Yeah. And so after I saw the movie, I was like, I wonder what Flame's doing, like what new music he has out. So I came to your page and just followed you, liked a couple pictures. Yeah. The next day I was like, oh, Flame followed me back, which was super cool. And you were like, man, I'm excited to hear your new album. So so that's how it happened.
Oh my goodness, that's right. Yes. So I listened to the project and man, it was so many layers to how good it was. That was the thing that was striking to me. Not only was it dope, but it was just layer on top of layer on top of layer of why the project was, to me, this might be one of your classics, like one of those ones that's hard to,
hard to beat.
Hard to beat. But to not speak of it in that language, it seemed like it's gonna be one that'll stand the test of time. You know what I mean? So just listening to it, first, I thought the production was super complimentary to your voice, your cadences, and your subject matters. Like I felt like there wasn't this big competition between what you were trying to say and the music. Like it was everything was in a pocket. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was super dope. But one thing I let Manny hear the truth. And so I was like, bro, you gotta check this record out. So he responded the same way, like, oh my goodness, like she murdered this mug.
Yeah, she got the DMs last night.
Yeah.
I was like,
man.
I was deep. So the way I DM'd her, it was like a few of them. Because I was DMing while I was lit. So it was getting better with each soul. So I'm like, I went from sis, dope album to you spazzing to oh my goodness, you
I get it, bro.
It just kept getting better, going deeper and getting more dynamic.
Seriously. Okay,
man,
so
thank you so much. Praise God.
Yeah, absolutely.
Facts. All right, so enough from us. What I want to know, first thing I want to know is what are you in touch with in terms of the way you're thinking about God, culture, and people that's informing you as you approach your music? Because it seems like you have a broad mission, it seemed like you have thought something through and you really have something to say to a particular mindset, people group. So what are you in touch with that's sort of driving your song choices and your topics and your subject matters,
Yeah. So for me, I didn't realize that my that my music would become such a ministry for women when I first started. Okay. I never even dreamed of being a rapper ever. Like it was never even a thought of mine. My passion has always been acting, theater. That's what I love. And so when God gave me the vision, it was more so like I see the industry and I see the message that's being promoted, and I can kind of see, looking back over my life, how negative, that message was and how it influenced me, even being someone who was saved. I've been saved since I was 3 years old. But of course you get older, you kind of drift away and things like that. But during that time where I did kind of leave church and just really get heavy into hip hop, I could see my mindset shift. I could see the toxicity that came from the music. And so for me, it was just like, I need to be a voice to speak against what they're saying and what they're doing. And so it started, with P31. And at that time, it was like the Barbie mentality was really big because of Nicki Minaj. Yeah. And I was a huge Nicki Minaj fan. But as God was, really delivering me and really as I was rededicating my life, I was like, this can't be the message for women. It can't be that everything is outward, that it's all about our appearance. You know, we have to understand the beauty that God has given us on the inside. So it started there. And of course, as things have evolved, I started to kind of see more of my influence and my reach when it comes to women. And I began to hear God, you know, really explaining to me what my name means, what Murk means, which is really, you know, just whatever the enemy is doing, whatever is happening in the industry, I'm to kill that. And I'm to attack it, you know, head on. And so it's a weird space because you love the people, and what you hear in the music, hopefully it's still the love, but the conviction is so strong. It's still so it's heavy. And so what I had to do was, you know, I just saw like the wave of women like Cardi and Megan and City Girls and Mulatto, like just what's happened over the past few years where women are just like doing like crazy stuff. Like the movement is real, but the message is just so bad for our girls and for our women. And so for me, it was like, I have to be that voice to represent for the Proverbs 31 women and explain that that's not the way that we're going, you know? And so I've been able to really study, you know, the women, really study the message. So for me, it's like a lot of homework when it comes to listening to the albums and kind of understanding, okay, this is what they're talking about. And then even for me, knowing that a lot of that is that savage mentality is pain, that's heartbreak. That's what I've been through in toxic relationships. And so for me, it was important to be that voice to speak to that, but also for it to be bumping.
Yes.
To where like the girl, like to where you don't feel like it should match. Like for me, I was like, you know, God, I want the anointing on this to be so strong to where you could put Murk in the middle of Cardi and Megan and it wouldn't be like, that just went down. But it's like, oh my God, this is crazy. But the lyrics are so dope. And so I was like, we have a lot of women of God who want to have fun, who love, you know, hip hop. But you see that like, I love God and trap music. Like we see that post a lot. And it's like, and I get it, but it can breed this bipolar kind of mentality. And, you know, we go through the flesh and kind of, you know, we work through that. But I'm like, I got to remind them that like, hey, we can love God, we can love Christ, and we can still have fun and we can still be turning up, you know, and I don't want them to feel like they have to work out to that music. You know what I'm saying? When we have a girl, like we have to listen to this. I want it to be that voice that's like, Murk is bumping, Murk is high, but the message is not compromised.
I love that, man. That is amazing. And it really lands. Like it sounds like what you had in your head happened on the project. Like the execution, like you pulled it off, you know what I'm saying? By God's grace. So yeah, hat tip. Definitely a hat tip.
Absolutely. Mark, I got a question for you. Fliz, I don't know if you had a follow-up question. Did you? I
got a few, but go ahead. Spark it.
All right. So we were talking, I don't know if I'm getting ahead of myself here, but Flame and I have been just talking about, you know, certain like gender differences and really trying to wrap our minds around the complexity of women and really for the purpose of understanding, you know, because we see in a lot of ways the beauty, we see how men oftentimes miss the beauty of the woman because the complexities kind of can sometimes be off-putting if not properly interpreted or understood. And so for us, we were just talking about like, man, there's so much of who God is channeled through the essence of a woman, through the way that, you know, the way that you guys think and process and how you beautify and ornament and bring things to life. And like, so Flav and I just kind of been talking through that.
Hey, look, even on the project, she mentioned wanting those custom curtains when you get your house, like that.
Hey, that's not right there. Yes.
I don't want the default factory curtain. I want to design my curtains according to my mood in my house. You feel me? Like that thing.
It reminds us of just like the handiwork of God and just the beauty in the world. And that's a side of God that we marvel at. And so as we think about women and your complexities, my point is that there's still obviously a lot of, you know, we're so radically different. The things that we just, we think we know, we think we might understand, but we need you guys to help us with certain things. So with that, we were just talking about we were trying to wrap our minds around what it is that what calls a woman, women like Meg or Nikki, what is it that's kind of informing the way that they portray themselves? Is it this sense of I'm in a man's world, therefore I have to play by certain rules? This is not really what I want to do or who I want to be. This is really just who I think I need to be to get ahead. There's no other way forward in this man's world except to twerk in every video. Or is it, no, we actually twerk because we want, in a voyeuristic world, we want, both women and men to we want women to envy us and men to like us, to be attracted to us.
Yeah.
Is it both of those? Is it like, help us to understand what is the thinking behind this, the agenda, the thing that seems to be kind of in the forefront when it comes to women in hip hop?
So I think that it's definitely both. I think that depending on what their experiences are and what they've been through, for some of them, like if we even take Cardi, for example, before she was doing music, she was stripping. And a lot of times I think it's like there's this impoverished, they come from poverty. And so it's, I'm if I don't have the education or if I don't feel like I have the skill set or the gift, but someone lets me know that if you just use your body, you can make so much money. I think sometimes it's just, I'm looking for a way out, of my situation. And this is something that is easy for me, because for women, that's something, what you have is what you have. You don't have to go to school for this, what they're doing. You don't have to go through any training. You're just born with it. And so I think that for a lot of them, it can be that this is just the only way that I see based on my background, what I've come from, what my limitations are, especially for some of those Black women, or just, even Hispanic women, just those other races who feel like they have had some type of systematic, thing against them, that it feels like this is the only way. But I also think that you have, the desire for the attention on the other side, whether it's men or women. I just like being seen. I just want to get that attention. And we see a lot of times on social media that those women who are wholesome, who do keep their clothes on, their views are never, as much as the Instagram model. Like, it's just not that. So they kind of feel like this is what they want to see. And I think it really stems from childhood. I think a lot of times it stems from the lack of our fathers. I think it stems from, not really having that man to really cover and protect you and teach you and show you how to be loved. So you're constantly just wanting, you're just needing, from everyone, because that void is there. And so I think, it's definitely both. But I also believe that the culture of the industry, even on the men's side, has always favored that satanic, move. If it's drugs, if it's murder, if it's violence, like if this is what you're talking about, we're going to boost you. Yeah. We're going to put the money behind it. We're going to put everything we can to get this message out. And so I think on the women's end, when it comes to us, it's sex. That's just what sells. That's what's making the money. And so they're also, conforming to the influence of, if I want to make it to the top, if I want to get here, I have to have surgery. I need to look this way, and so I think it's just, and I think it also stems from just the hurt, the pain, like that's consistent, that has caused them to kind of want to be that role. Like you said, I'm in a man's world, I have to get it on my own. No one's going to love me. No one's going to open the door for me. I have to bust that door down. And I also, because I've been so hurt, the victim is now becoming the victimizer, so a lot of that is bitterness. When I say, I don't need you, I don't want to get married, I'm going to take your money, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to go off. It's like that. A lot of times it's just the pain, it's just the hurt, but I don't think that they realistically want to live that lifestyle that I feel forced. You know what I'm saying? I feel like I was forced into that through all of the different, dynamics. And I think while the money is good and you may enjoy that, there's always a sense of brokenness, of a void, of pain that is there, but we're trying to cover it up with the likes. We're trying to cover it up with the success. But yeah, I feel like I'm just going on. I can say so much.
No, that's good.
You can, please.
I love that answer. Like, because you sort of see it too. Like you see with, let's just say with Cardi. So there was a time period where she was sort of doing what she had to do with her trauma to survive. But then the moment she found a man she thought was worthy of marriage, she got married, started raising kids. Like she sort of, transitioned into that skin that she would most naturally rather be in, which is to be a wife, to be settled. But they sort of get stuck in, well, now I provide through my entertainment means. So I have to keep contradicting myself. Like, was it the joint she just did recently where her daughter walked in the room and she was listening to WAP and she turned it off real fast? Like you saw that sort of dichotomy within herself, like, dang. And then she, adjusted quickly. But one of the things I love about your project is like you really painted a vision of reality for women in particular, but also for men though. Like you gave a vision of how to think about relationships, how to think about economics, right? You're talking about scamming and all, right? Like in terms of God's means of provision versus the way the world is saying, here's a lick, let's do this, right? You covered so many topics and just gave a vision of what women should expect for themselves, what they should expect from a man, you know what I mean? And I think it was so brilliant, but those are the things that we take for granted that people don't know. Like a lot of people grow up in households where they don't get those foundational elements, right? Even myself in many ways. And if the church isn't painting a vision of reality for people so that they know, oh, if I'm a man, I should consider these things, consider these things, consider these things according to the Bible. If no one is helping them do that, they're going to catch their cues from pop culture, music, movies, random conversation from their homies at the gym, at school, wherever. But that's what you did. You sort of, not even sort of, you fully help people walk through all these different stages of being single, how to be patient in your singleness. And then you even tapped into how to not be bitter if you've been hurt, right? So kind of like even take us through some of that. Like that was to me another one of those layers. Because that's oftentimes what we do. We hold on to that hurt and then we can't love anymore. We can't make ourselves vulnerable anymore. And we just become these new versions of ourselves that are really scarred and walking around defensive and filled with trauma. But you said be free of that. Like talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, and I just love being on here with you both. I mean, it's just an honor, to grow up listening to you and then to see this space. It's incredible. But having men, like just having men and to talk about this with you is so dope because I do see men that are like, man, this album is crazy. This album is crazy. And I'm like, and I know everything I'm talking about is like women, like queen this, queen that. But I think it's so dope because a lot of the things I think that are happening to women are the result of, that a lot of men are not intending to do this. They don't, it's like you said, they don't know. So a lot of these men, didn't have a father figure, went through a rejection, abandonment, and all of that. And they never healed. And so they're not, they don't know how to provide. They don't know how to protect. They don't know how to be a priest. And so I think that, while they're loving you to the best of their ability, but even the love that they have is tainted and it's toxic because it's not the love of God. And so I think for women, we like the way that we become this savage and like, you know what, I'm gonna do what you do. Like that's what I'm gonna do. Like, since you did this to me, but you don't understand that there's consequences for even that. Like everything that you do, you think you're hurting him, but each and everything that you're doing is still a consequence back on you. And so it's like, we know how deep that unforgiveness is. I mean, and how detrimental it is, even in our relationship with Christ. And I think so many Christians and believers are the same way. Like we love God, but we have these odds, against ex-husband, against, daddy, against all this stuff. And there's just no freedom in that. But I think it was so important for me to speak to that because the way that, the women in hip hop are speaking, it's making it like it's okay to dog these men. It's okay to down them. And I think even though Ring speaks to that too, but I feel like it was so important to know that, that God is that healer, that bitterness is never going to serve us. And it's not on either side, and also to just kind of have the compassion for the man that is doing this. You don't stay with him, but you understand that it's your job to release, to pray, because even he's broken. Yeah. And so it's like his soul needs saving, his soul needs healing. So when I think about myself and the past relationships that I've been in, I've had those opportunities to feel like, oh, and then it's like, right. You feel that, but then it's
you might have deserved it too.
Right. But it's like, but what joy, like what peace, what freedom do I really have even in that? And then how do I expect God to bless me with the man that I'm believing for, with the husband that I say I want, if I'm carrying that around? Because I'm not even in a position to serve him, to love on him, like whoever he is, this baggage. Even when you get the good man, you're going to run him away because of that. And so, while I get the anger and I get the malice, and that's why I think I started the way I did, because I wanted to connect, because it's very aggressive. It's very aggressive.
But it's
very aggressive.
Yeah, go ahead.
But that's the sound. And I'm like, okay, this is how they feel.
Yes.
But the second verse, we have to turn the corner and say, but Christ can heal that. And there is faith, because I think there's a lot of women who aren't necessarily so angry and vengeful, but they're just so hurt that they don't even see that God can bring them something better. Yeah. So those women are in doubt, they're in fear, they're in unbelief. And a lot of them live in depression. They don't see their gifts, their purpose outside of that man, outside of I just want to be married. I just want to be married. I just want to be married. And it's like understanding that Christ is that husband. That's who he is. And even if you never have a husband, the who he is and the things that he's gifted you to do, you have to be free to do those things. You have to be free to move in your purpose. You have to be free, to be the inspiration and the light that people are calling you to be, whether you get another man or not. And so that's a special song for me, for what God's brought me through and the place of wholeness that I've had to get through singleness. And for so many other women, they talk to me a lot like, man, that song is my life, or that's my testimony, or this is that. Like, you have no idea. And I'm just like, thank you, God.
Yeah. Ooh, I love it, man. I love it.
You got something, Fliz? Or you want?
I always got something. You go ahead, though. Jump in there.
Hey, so with that, right? Because somebody might say, you know what? Murk, we understand where she's coming from, but this is just not realistic. This is idealistic, these are great ideas. They're just not consistent with reality. Mm-hmm. The truth of the matter is we live in a dog eat dog world, and we just got to do what we got to do. I would much rather do what works, even if it costs me my own virtue, which it seems like that's a concession that certain, both men and women, but we want you to speak from the vantage point of a woman today.
Yeah.
So what would you say to that? So it's a two-part question. What would you say to the person who says that's just not realistic, just given the conditions that they are in? That's A. B. How do we speak to? It seems like sometimes you create these projects because you want to speak to a very specific group of people, but you end up kind of putting them in the cyber world, the cyberspace, where I kind of don't know where this is going once I release it. So on the micro level, and you can speak to the macro level too if you want, but on the micro level, what is the plan to take this from album to leveraging it in order to be, because the way we see you is like, you are an important voice to the culture, to the generation. Like, I don't know if we've felt like this, not that we're the standard, but I'm not sure we've felt like this about much of anybody, any female necessarily in your space and doing what you're doing. We're doing what you're doing specifically. That's what we're saying. So it's like, man, we want to see you speak into but where are the spaces where that can happen on a micro level? And just speak to those two things.
Yeah. So the first thing is, I think, when we talk about, the unrealistic side of it, and like, man, you don't understand, you don't get it. This is what I have to do. I think the question is, are you fulfilled? Do you have peace? Do you have joy, in what you're doing? So even though you're saying, okay, so that this is what you've been doing, but how is it working for you? How do you feel without the makeup? How do you feel without the bag? If you don't have the clothes, if someone like, what is it like when you go home? And like you said, like that, like Cardi, I want this man, you know what I'm saying? I thought this man was going to be this, but then we've seen all the trauma that's even gone on with that relationship. It's like this perception that we're giving, WAP, this is the message. All I needed was WAP in order to get this husband. But it's like that same husband is chasing everybody else's WAP as well. So it's like, when it's done, it's like, what do you feel? You know what I'm saying? Like, what do you have peace? Do you know why you're here? Like, do you have purpose? Are you fulfilled? And I think that, like, if they really can consider and think about it, then you have to understand that even what I'm doing is not serving me, even when I feel like it's serving me. And then I think we have to help them to understand that the things of Christ are not mentally understood. It's spiritually understood, and it's only understood by those who seek him. So it's like, you have a perception of what life is. And like you said, this is the world we live in, but it's helping them to get out of the worldly, the carnal mindset to shift to the kingdom mindset and really understand that faith is really the currency to what it is that you're desiring. That it's never, I'm looking at the world and this is what I see and this is what it is. It's I'm looking at the word and this is what God says. So yes, every single man I've ever experienced was a dog. Yeah. But if God is saying, that I can speak and things can be established, that he has plans for me to give me a hope in a future, or if I can see in the word these pictures of powerful relationships, then I have to realize that this is going to be a faith thing. And I'm going to have to transition from this carnal thinking to this spiritual thinking to understand that the way everything I'm doing, the way I operate has to completely change, because it's a whole nother system that we're talking about. And so I think I think you have to walk them through that. But I think the first thing is dealing with that hole that's really there and being able to speak to that hole and being able to cast vision there, because they haven't seen anything else. Yeah. So that's why my perception is this, because I'm looking at what I see. My perspective is tainted by that. And so we have to start to, sow those seeds of those other ideas. And I think that's what No Ring is. Which it was very important for me to even get D1 on there as well, because he's doing great work as far as speaking to relationships and speaking to women with this latest album. But I wanted them to know this is not just Murk pointing her finger. This is what you need to do. Listen to me. You need to hear another man who says like, yeah, I value this. Yeah. Because then that sees, oh, D1 is like that. Like he's not the only one. Like there's other men of God. So I think I had to open up their eyes to see that not every man feels the way that you hear in the hip hop industry. There are some that are giving something different, and that's why you can't treat all of them like they are just disposable. Because that's not the truth. So I think even exposing them to his voice was important. And so I think, like I said, it's just showing them something else. And our lives are that testimony. I'm still believing that God is going to, bring my husband into my life. But even I think my single season is important for them to see as well, to see, wow, if this happened for Murk, okay, this can happen. So I think just walking that, just being that inspiration. A lot of times they don't hear what you say, they see what you're doing. And if they can see God in your life and you can continue to show that he's no respecter of persons, you can kind of help them shift. But it is definitely a process. So I would say that. And then I think for me to what I see, and I'm so blessed to have a great mentor. So Mr. Dale is my mentor and my manager.
Salute, and Mr. Dale.
Mr. Dale.
He's a pastor. So he's a pastor. So when I met him, it was I actually won a competition in Miami, and he was one of the judges, and that's how I met him. And he ended up signing me. But when I came, he was very clear of letting me know that, God has called you to minister. Like you can teach the word of God. Like and I was just kind of like, I just want to do CDs. Like we didn't talk about no ordination. Like I wasn't prepared for that. But by the time Mr. Dell got done, I was ordained. I wrote a book, and I really began to understand the ministry behind the music. And that's one of the things that he's so big on is every single concert that we have, there's going to be an altar call. You know what I'm saying? Like if we're hosting a concert, we're not leaving unless we know that these kids know, you know what I'm saying, that they have Christ as their savior. So it taught me the importance of that ministry. So I think for me, what I'm working on now is creating a community for 31 Gang. Yes. That 31 Gang. And I think although, for a long time, Mr. Dell's like P31 is a movement. It's a movement. It's a movement. And I've been at this now. My first album came out in 2013. So it's been 8 years and I'm seeing the new beginning that's really happening. But it's like, even with that, I couldn't see how it was a movement. I'm like, I know women are attaching to it and they like it, but I think 31 Gang, it became that because the way they responded was like this is our song, like this is our gang. Like I'm a gang member now. Like that's what it is. Yeah. And it's creating this like awareness of like even the women who are already in Christ who didn't necessarily have the boldness or were slipping back and kind of being influenced. It's kind of that like, okay, let's go. So I see God is like really bringing an army together and he's calling me to minister to that army. And so for me, I do weekly Bible studies. Word Crush Wednesday gives me a chance to get into it. I have a podcast called the P31 podcast that allows me to touch on those things. And then as I'm led, some of these women have my personal phone number. They know they can call me if they're going through things or whatever it is. So it's very important to me too, to try not to be so caught up in my career and what I'm doing to not have time for those one-on-one conversations. Because it's those prayers, it's that prayer time that I have with them. It's that they can call me and ask me for wisdom on whatever that I'm able to provide for them. And so I think that I'm watching the gang grow. I'm still hearing from God as far as what that community looks like. How do we provide? But I know that for me, it has to be much bigger than Murk. And I have to see what I'm doing, activating the gifts in them and their purpose, what I'm saying, kind of coming alive and coming further, because it's going to take all of us to have this impact. And each circle of influence is what's going to cause, I believe, like you said, this macro vision where there are all these women in all these different, cities who are pursuing God. So, I mean, I can see conferences in the future. I can see, I mean, just the gifts of God. He's unraveled so much for me. And I think even when it comes to the acting in the theater, like you guys will get to see really soon, Throw Him Back, the video is coming out. And just even how he's ministering.
Hey, that song's so hard. That's one of my favorite joints on the record.
Man, okay. So if you could pick like the one, like what would be like the one? Ooh. Is it Throw Him Back?
It might be Throw Him Back, if I'm honest. It might be Throw Him Back. I know it sounds.
Most men say that. Like, what can you speak to this? Like, there's a lot of men that reach out and are like, man, that Throw Him Back.
Hey, that mug is hard. One just sonically is hard. So it just sounds like, and it has that, I'm gonna say this in an irresponsible way. It has that male cocky mood. It feels like how I would feel as a man when I listen to rap. So you sort of captured that, whatever that is. You feel me? But in reverse, right? So it's the confidence of a woman saying, with that same, energy, that same mood, I'm not going to put myself in that position to drag somebody along. I think it's that sort of mood that I can identify with just as a dude. But it's the confidence. Yeah. It's the confidence, the content and the confidence. You know what I mean? But not to beat a dead horse, but that's why I say it's good for men to hear this project as well, because you may know this. This is interesting to think about, though. So Proverbs 31 was written from a woman, a mom, to her son.
Yes.
As to what to look for in a woman, right? Because us as dudes, we just sort of be clueless or very shallow a surface when it comes to what to look for in a woman. You know what I mean? So that's something else I think you did brilliantly in the project. The male listener can hear you articulate the female expectation, right? Yes. As you sort of mapped out, like, my man ain't gonna get tired of me, when I'm, you know, in my certain moods, or if I'm talking too much, he's gonna be patient with me. Like you spoon fed the male listener how to process his wife or his girlfriend approaching, you know what I'm saying, marriage, right? Because a lot of times that's sort of a marital or relationship point of tension where the dude wishes he can read her mind. She wishes he could read her mind, and nobody's really saying anything to each other, and that communication breaks down. But in this project, you're spoon feeding. Here's how to be patient with me during this time of the month, right? Or here's how to be patient with me when I'm in this.
Or like, this is what I value as a woman.
Right.
Here's what I value in a man.
You covered all of that specifically. You know what I'm saying? You gave examples of how to think about, you know what I'm saying, these stages of womanhood as a male. So if I'm a dude, so if you're a dude listening to this, you want to get in the skin of what your future wife could potentially be expecting from you, take notes. Like, listen to the project, take notes, grow from it. Don't feel weird because you're a dude, or you know what I mean? Like, see it as a blessing that you get this sort of, you know, this peek into the mind of a woman, and so that you can serve her better and create an environment for her to thrive in. Like, that's sort of what you set up with this project. So, that's so good. I love it. I love it. And I do realize you're sort of like, I don't know what the feminine version of David's name would be, but you're sort of like a David against a Goliath in terms of the Goliath of the culture right now. That's, you know, the Jasmine Sullivans who are communicating to women. Mm-hmm. That's what you're bucking up against. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so, but we see how in the scriptures it turned out for Goliath. So
yes, we do.
You feel me? So he's with you. I love what you're doing. It's exciting to see. And I got my popcorn to see how God's gonna continue to let your movie play out and bless so many people. So yeah, this has been great. This has been great.
It's been amazing. It's been amazing. Seriously.
Yeah, we have to pick this up on a part 2, because I know you're gonna have so many more stories as what you're building continues to spread, and the conferences. We want to hear how the conferences are going, how the books are going, and all of that in the future. So,
and let us know in whatever way that we can support you. We got you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you both so very much. This has been such a joy, and I'm so thankful. And I just give, all I can say is just glory, glory, glory to God. Like, I'm so overwhelmed with what he's doing through this project. And I feel so privileged to be the vessel that he's chosen to carry it. So it's such an honor and to watch. And then to see what he told me manifesting about this album is just so amazing. So I appreciate you, because I know that he wants this message further. He's shown me just how important it is. His daughters are. They're just so important to him. And they have always been. Jesus. But I can feel his love, and I can feel the pursuit and the chasing, you know, after every time he uses me to minister, and even on that one-to-one. And so it's been my, you know, heart's desire to see him. And I knew that this album, it's like you said, I felt it. I'm like, if there's any other album, like, it's this. I'm like, this is the one. Like, I gotta put my foot on the gas, like, when it comes to this album. And it's like, you know, I felt it, and I was like, and I've just been like, God, just enlarge, you know, just enlarge it, because there's so many women who need to hear. So I just thank you all for bringing me on such a blessed platform, and allowing that exposure, because it takes, you know, legends like you to see what we're doing, and to help to push, you know, what it is, and not to just inspire us, but even to further, just by opening the door for us. So I'm very appreciative of you both and the kingdom work that you're doing. And the podcast is dope. I got to listen to the episode that you did on females.
Oh yeah. We kind of got our head bit off a little bit. We got our head bit off. I don't know how.
But it was good though. It was good. Because I wanted to know, because, you know, like, when I saw that you had a podcast, like, oh, they got a podcast. I'm like, let me check it out. And when I saw that title, I'm like, that's the one I need to hear. But when I was listening, like, it gave me even the mindset that you all have. And even like Truth having a daughter, and understanding that, you know, and so it made me even from that point, it made me feel even, you know, better about being able to be that voice. So I'm just so thankful that I had this time to chop it up with you all. And I just continue to speak blessings over everything that you're putting your hand to.
Amen.
Thank
Likewise.
you. Tell everybody where to find you.
Yes.
So I am Murk P31 everywhere. That is Murk P31 on Instagram, on Facebook, on YouTube. My website is murkp31.com.
And what's the name of the new album?
31 Gang.
Hey. Let's go. Hey, hey. We love you, sis. Bless you. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Love you too.
For hanging out with us.
Thank you.
Yes. God's peace. Yes.